Salam and welcome to Somali Dispatch. Hassan Haji, former Somali MP and a political analyst. We would love to have you here today so we can dive into some of the issues that are pertaining to the ongoing Somalia's election process. If you can start us off with a brief assessment on how the electoral process in Somalia is going right now.
Thank you, Somalia Dispatch, for giving me this opportunity today. Somalia has come a long way for its nascent democracy. If you remember, Somalia, after the central government collapsed, there was several transitional governments worked. Most of the first two, or I think the three presidents have been elected in outside of the country. First was two in Djibouti, one in Kenya. It was in 2012 when the Constituency Assembly has been established and the ending the transition has been done properly in Mogadishu, and the president of Hassan Sheikh has been elected in Somalia. At that time, the election has happened. It was kind of selection. Was direct selection for them from the clan. Somalia has power sharing formula called 4.5, which is after the civil war, when the trust diminished or just lost, people agreed that every clan must be must see itself within the power sharing. It is not a fair system, but at least it was nearly every clan in Somalia has been represented, regardless of the numbers they got. Some of them have more, some of them less, whatever. Into 2012, the chief of the clan nominated the 275 MPs, and that they elected in President Hassan Sheikh. And President Hassan Sheikh, what he inherited, he has moved election from in Mogadishu with one person nominating the MB to devolve it and take it to 5, what do you call it, capital of the regional governments, with the 51 members who are electing the parliament. How they come to that was the President Hassan Sheikh. He has done what he could, bringing democracy closer to the people by establishing, finishing the regional governments of the federal member states. Before, it was only Puntland who existed, and then he, with his help, we've got another 4. And then those 5 presidents and himself, they established something called Constituency Assembly. This Constituent Assembly, which contained or consisted the federal member state president and himself, agreed the parliament must be elected by 51 delegates, which counted as electoral college for us at the time. It was not 100% perfect, but it was something really convincing, and the people wanted, was very happy. Coming to your question of today, the election that we have, it is really in shambles, and it is not 100% fair. It's kind of just nominating. You will see that you can forecast or predict who is going to be MP. Many of them, their rights have been denied, including, for example, the most senior politician of Somalia, Professor Jawari, who was 2-time speaker, and is also just institutional memory, has been denied to contest. His rights been denied and blocked to contest. That is, it become a norm now for the 5 regional governments, more or less. Some of them doing clearly, some of them doing openly. Some of them doing just another tactics to persuade, maybe whatever, to bring their favorite. So the Somalia waited 1 extra year to have an election after this government failed to bring one man, one vote. It promised, which was her mandate when this President Formaggio came to power. And after long tug of war between federal member states and oppositions and everyone, indirect election has been agreed, which was a political agreement with the parliament endorsed. But unfortunately, the people are not getting what they want. But the international community, which are there to help Somalia, and also the Somali society, they are fed up of the long wait and just they need to see an election, and that is what's going on. And this election is far from fair. Unfortunately, that's what's going on at the moment.
Right. Thank you for that assessment. Other than the obvious reasons one would wanna muddy up and mess up the elections, what are the reasons for the election going this way? What are the ideas behind this long process, and why is it taking so long? And what are the actors who are mudding this up trying to achieve by messing up the elections this way?
Actually, it's just buying a time. Somalia is normally, unfortunately, we do not, traditionally, Somalis tend to forget so easily. In another part of the world, if something happens, a political mistake happens, or maybe just incumbent or political party, whatever, they did something wrong, ruling party, they did something wrong. The media and the society, they will not let it go until this thing is solved. But Somalia is unfortunately just after a couple of days or a couple of weeks, everything is just getting forgotten, and everybody forgets it. It's just delaying tactic has been one of the major tactic by the current administration, and also lack of trust among the political stakeholders, specifically those who are in power, or whether they are the federal government or the federal member states. Delaying the election is just one of their doings. This has just expedited only when international community, specifically Americans, stepped in, and just they said that no more business as usual. So you have to do the election as agreed, and they every time they agree something, and they're the one who are breaking it. And also, selecting the one they want. It's not something straightforward. This is something owned by a clan A or clan B. Clan A and clan B, they have a lot of aspirants, and everybody has the supporters, and it's going to be very difficult and just very challenging one to do whatever he likes. I mean, the member states presidents who are now managing the election. They cannot do what they like unless they see. They have to do some kind of feasibility studies on their own way to see that this election, this particular seat, for example, or the seats that they're after, there are safe seats which they don't have any problem, and they are the safe seats. And another problem is there is a culture of exclusionism. Somalis just, the politicians, they tend to exclude their foes. They don't like a fair fight. They don't never introduce it. If they can, block you, if they can, they will do it whatever they can. So that is the one causing a lot of time. I believe that the election will be dragged on until maybe, let's see, the mid-March or maybe April, something like that. It is not a straightforward. That is the main reason delaying is it is greed, it is conflict of interest, that these ones they want, since the president is going to be elected by those MPs, it's everyone's interest to see Villa Somalia, to have his own members to help them, get the throne. I think that's why the delay is happening.
You've alluded and spoke about the U.S. pushing to have the completion of the elections, and there is a new U.S. policy on denying visas to Somali leaders found to be impeding democracy in that country. Notably, what was interesting in that statement from Antony Blinken was the international community, and specifically to the U.S. government, is laser focused on completion and not how. What is your reaction to that new policy enacted by the U.S. government?
Well, U.S. government, it was AOL in last, before Biden administration came to power. The Trump administration just he did not prioritize, so he didn't care. And most of the time, we had Americans had only officer in charge, and the international community, which heavily invested the nation building of Somalia for the last 20 years in terms of manpower, in terms of incentives, techniques and everything. They were there, to intervene politically by writing, statements in consensus in every international community, just accusing the government, not necessarily accusing, but pinpointing the problem and their concern. But during the Trump era, the Americans were not, getting involved. In fact, they were the one, who were hindering the process because unless they are involved, the international community could not agree and to have a consensus statement. And that they have the current administration benefited a lot by using the sovereignty card, if you like, and doing whatever they like with their own way. And sometimes just what do you call it? Provoking or and just intimidating, if you like, for the diplomats, international diplomatic corps in Somalia based in Mogadishu, by saying that you get BNG'd. And as one incident happened by UN Special Representative Nicholas Hayson has been expelled in Somalia, which was unconstitutional at the time. So when Biden came to power, coming back to your question, it was not business as usual, and America they've revisited their policy, mainly something to do with geopolitics in East African problems, Eritrean involvement in Ethiopia, even this tripartite and all of these things, and also the culture of impunity, and Somali politicians do whatever they like and get away with it. So right. The Americans just who are one of the biggest donors and helping in Somalia in terms of what do you call it, technical advice and trainings and even emergency humanitarian funds and all of these things. They have every rights, and then their concern they showed, but this time more clearly. And I think that why Secretary Blinken visited in Kenya and addressed those issues, and he tweets also sometimes by telling. I think this is changing the tide, and that is why the Americans maybe. And also, this geopolitics, the Chinese involvement, maybe just they becoming a little bit more, what do you call it, closer or interest showing in this Somalia, which is a very strategic country, and we have Africa's longest coast, the longest maritime corridor, hundreds of thousands of marine transport, crossing our seas. East and west, whatever comes from the west passes our corridors when they go to Dubai, where there's the main exchange, containers, ports, whatever comes from east also passes. And this is strategic, and not to say also the natural resources that we have. And also another important element, which is just normal, not people say it all the time. The Somalia is proven that it has a rich in uranium, which is just also another very sensitive material, which can, use it to build a nuclear or whatever. Even though I cannot say it, I'm not a scientist or geologist, but this is something that Americans, I think, which were a long-time ally for Somalia, they don't want to just see Somalia slip away into chaos. I think this is just something. And also the Somali society, which are really become a victim after 30 years of victim of their own government, if you say, for the last 30 years, they don't have any provisions of social, you don't have it, free education, free healthcare, security, and all of these things. And also the leaders, they do whatever they like and getting away with it. At this time, maybe they have someone who spoke on their behalf and twisting the arms of those people who are in the power. It is kind of post-mortem. Americans, get delayed this thing, but now I think it is something that Americans wanted to do it, and the Somalis welcome. Back to you.
Okay. So in terms of welcoming that process and being pushed that process to completion, we're noticing some dispute rising out of the second city elections. As you know, part of the agreement in September was these elections are to be held two cities in every region. And now, the biggest problem being Garbahari, of course, of Jubaland, where you were formerly, elected to the parliament from. So in Jubaland, how is this Garbahari dispute playing out?
Well, that is just one of the, if you like, if you want to call it, the biggest electoral problem coming in, and I can predict it how it's going to end it. For the last 2 years, the incumbent, what he did is openly meddle and interfere and send, troops to Gedo region, specifically Garbahari and Velatao, and even just look. There was several occasions that has happened a conflict. Many people died under the disguise of maybe saying that neighboring problem, just accusing Kenyans are doing something. Kenyans, part of Amazon, they have done some, airstrike several times while this government was in power before the incumbent, sent the troops there. He never spoke and they never said anything. But this time, when the regional electoral, presidential electoral happened and the President Madobe came, Villa Somalia was not happy and they couldn't do anything. They tried everything to stop him, but they couldn't. The only thing that to stop or to dent his responsibilities is, I think, their strategy is to get 16 seats of which were allocated or to Garbahari. This election, it has been agreed politically that every regional federal member states must held election in 2 cities. So the second city allocated was Garbahari for Jubaland, and it is only for political purpose. The incumbent intends to grab those 16, MPs, since everybody is nominating, their MPs, and that was the main thing. And also, it's a number game. The more seats that you get, more closer that you are in Villa Somalia. What is going to happen is every federal member states, they have their own electoral commission, which is to say that they are independent. Those are the ones, for example, for instance, those are the ones who have legality to conduct the election. Nobody else has mandated to do the election. For instance, now Southwest, they've done election in Baidoa, and they also now they've conducted the electoral commission of Southwest. They move it to Brawe, which is the second city. They've conducted 13 seats, and the other 13 they will do the next 13, 2 or 3 days. So unless the electoral commission of Jubaland goes to Garbahari, which is less likely, I think there will not be any election there. The only election can happen is just if the incumbent nominates or do something like that, which is illegal, and they cannot participate in the upcoming election. To me, my analysis will be those seats will be more likely suspended, since there is no compromise and agreement with the one who sent the army and the one who has legitimacy to run the Jubaland. Maybe the next parliament and next administration will have a say, and will unless these two come to their senses.
Thank you, Hassan Haji, for that. Finally, there seems to be an uproar about how people who are not supposed to be running for parliament, for example, security personnel in the federal government, be they in NITSA or in the regional levels. These soldiers and these police and military officials are running and have won some seats. And Fahad Yassin, as you well know, who is the president's advisor, security advisor, is slated to run in Beledweyne. What are the consequences of having these officials, military officials, or security personnel running in parliament and winning their seats?
Well, this is a very good question. Somalis, most, even including the leaders and the politicians, many just that we call elite, they do not understand the word parliamentary impunity. Many think that you do whatever you like, crime, kill or maim or whatever, or loot if you like, and then just you become MP and then you become untouchable. The law doesn't say that. If you are a criminal, even if you are MP, you can be prosecuted. And I think this needs to be enlightened and educated with the Somali society that the member of parliament, if he has been done any crime, even though would have been much wise not to select or elect someone who has a criminal background, which crime that he has committed or she may committed prevents it just holding public office. There is two agendas to my reading for those who have been in the service. I can take an example. The acting NISA director, who is a civil servant, has been selected or elected, whatever you like to say, as a member of parliament for Galmudug constituency. The law says that if you are a civil servant, you cannot seek a public office unless you resign 3 months prior to election. None has been honored. He went there and he got the seat and he is still running NISA, which is another conflict of interest. So my reading is the twofold. One of them is the incumbent bringing his own, die-hard people, henchmen, if you like, to the parliament, so they can not only, vote for him, also just to campaign for him on his behalf. 329 MPs. If you got, let's say, 20 loyalists, each one of them can get you 9 MPs. It is not a rocket science. Do the numbers, and that person is just, if he wins it. If he doesn't the first, the second, he will win it. If he doesn't, win the second round, he will go when it's just, the third, which is just you did only one extra vote. I mean, it is not 2/3 at that time. It's 50 plus 1, which is the third round. The other thing is those who has committed crime, they think that they will get away with it as long as they have the parliamentary seat and nobody will prosecute them. And it's up to the next government, to decide their fate. And if the next government, the first they will elect the speaker, the next speaker, he can do what common sense says: suspend those MPs and say step aside because you red flag. And also, just many Somali citizens can petition and write to the MP and to the courts if the courts are neutral, which we know, unfortunately at the moment, it serves a purpose of some particular individual. So that is the reason why those who are in the service and to go for the parliament, to protect their man and bring them back second term, which so far never happened again. It has never happened. And number 2, get away from prosecution.
Very well said, and thank you for your time today for explaining these pertinent issues. And I'm sure with your prediction of the electoral commission not meeting their deadline on the 25th of this month, we would likely be talking again and again. So thank you so much, and I appreciate your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.